Hello, it's the one and only guy Johnny, Coach Johnny, whichever you prefer. And we're here with 5D Transformations. And this video is for my MBTI lovers out there. Those of you who don't know what MBTI is, learn about it, because to me, that's the most powerful psychological tool that we have out there to understand ourselves and others. I already did a video on how to type yourself. For those of you who think MBTI isn't effective or isn't true, you only say that because you tried to type yourself and you typed yourself wrong. Like it takes a certain level of self-awareness to really type yourself correctly. It takes a certain level of inner understanding of yourself. So I wouldn't expect most people to type themselves correctly, number one. And then number two, so if you need to get typed, or if you want to figure out exactly what your personality type is, send me an email at your5dtransformations@gmail.com. I'll be figuring people's personalities types out in less than 10 minutes. And I send them with all the info they need to know their type and read on it. And most of the time it's right. No, all the time it's right. I'm never wrong with that. I'm not gonna lie. Every person I type, I ask certain questions. So, generally I'm not wrong. So, I'm really good at this thing. I've typed families, each person right there in the moment, and they're all and then start describing them to themselves. And they're like, how do you know all this? How do you know all this about me? So MBTI is amazing. So anyways, when it comes to using the functions, we're going to talk about extroverted intuition. So extroverted intuition, if you want to use extroverted intuition, what do you do? So if you want to use extroverted intuition, it's simple as this. It's possibilities, right? It's possibilities. So with extroverted intuition, the reason why people are able to come up with all of these ideas is really from looking in the past, because extroverted intuition is tied to introverted sensing, and introverted sensing is looking in the past, and extroverted intuition is projecting way out in the future. So let's say you have the present, the future, and the past. The present are introverted intuition and extroverted sensing. Extroverted sensing is being fully in the present. Introverted intuition is being a little bit ahead of the present. You're noticing, I noticed that, I noticed this, I noticed that right now. I noticed this pattern. It's very sharp in the moment, right? And then you have extroverted intuition, as I'm talking about, and introverted sensing, right? And so with introverted sensing, it's always looking in the past. But with extroverted intuition, it's always looking way out in the future. So it's you can't have extroverted intuition unless you have a metric in reality to judge what's going to happen way out in the future. So for example, I'll be well, in the past, there were wars because of XYZ. So if we're doing these type of behaviors, in the future is going to be a big war, right? That's more on the negative side, right? Let's say if I look at it, I'm okay, in the past, people created this I could look in the past and be people are always pushing technology, information forward, and back then it was a certain archetype of people that were very creative that came up with these genius ideas. So then I might notice that okay, so if that's the case, then that lets me know that in the future, there's going to be people coming up with even bigger ideas, because that's what happened in the past, right? So that's a basic way to understand it. So extroverted intuition, if you want to use it, you got to think beyond the moment, first of all. And you got to look into the future by looking at the possibilities. And really, extroverted intuition, it requires creativity and freedom of ideas. So if you want to use extroverted intuition, start small. Think of ideas absent of what's going on right now. So what I would say is any idea. Like I can be like, okay, I want to play basketball, right? Okay, I love basketball, right? And then just think to yourself, like, man, like what will basketball look like in 20 years from now? Boom. Now you're tapping into extroverted intuition. Let's say you're a carpenter or you do construction and you're looking at a drill. I want you to think to yourself, like, man, what kind of drills are they gonna have in the future? Like, think about the future, you know? Like, what's gonna happen in the future? Think big ideas, you know? That's extroverted intuition. Extroverted intuition is imagining big things, imagining possibilities. Like when they say, if pigs could fly, like, you know, and that's like, but it's like extroverted intuitive, but like, what if pigs could fly? What would it take to make pigs fly? Like, what do you mean pigs can't fly? No, you're not using extroverted intuition. You're using extroverted sensing or whatever, like in terms of what you're perceiving, because you're just basing things on what you're seeing now. You don't know it. Like, you gotta realize that before there was cars, there was no cars, you know? Like before there was cell phones, you talk to somebody 100 years ago and say, what if there was a device where you could wirelessly talk to people and, you know, let alone 200 years ago, let alone 300 years ago, if you told somebody that there'll be a phone that you could, they couldn't even fathom, right? Well, if there was somebody in the 1700s that was like, well, back then they didn't have telescopes, but now we have these kind of telescopes. So that means in the future, they might have super telescopes that can see everything, you know? And that's what we have now. We got satellites, you know? It might not be a tele, but there's satellites. So extroverted intuition will always exist. The goal for what you're supposed to do is to see the possibilities and be comfortable exploring the ideas. So if you want to use extroverted intuition, you want to look at the things around you, and when they trigger an idea, you want to explore the idea. Now, there's a lot of people who don't naturally come up with a lot of ideas. So it's kind of hard because it's like they're more so taking things as they come. But it's okay. Like, just start with any ideas. Like, you might not have the best ideas relative to somebody that uses any dominant. You know, it could be something simple like you're cooking food and you're like, what if I added like something different to spice up my dish? Boom, you're using extroverted intuition. Like, you're thinking of a new idea, you know? Extroverted intuition pushes ideas forward, you know? It's open to receiving all the ideas, you know? Another thing, if you want to use extroverted intuition, is you gotta watch a lot of information that's out the box. Like, I would say, if you want to tap into extroverted intuition, watch things like sci-fi, like, you know, watch things that make you think beyond the regular, you know. Also, if you want to use extroverted intuition, and if you want to know how to use it, what you want to do is, you know, you want to try to use your imagination. That's really big, because extroverted intuition is always responding to ideas, you know. So I would recommend, you know, closing your eyes and just imagining what comes to mind. You know, you have to use your imagination. You have to practice, you know, free flowing. Like, one good thing to do is to take a piece of paper and just freestyle draw. Like, you don't know where you're going, but just create the drawing. Don't draw a linear picture. Like, don't draw like, okay, there's a Mona Lisa and I'm gonna sketch a Mona Lisa. Like, don't do something that's already been done. Scribble a bit, like play around and see what you create. Draw little loops and lines and just, like, I don't even know where this is going, and keep going until it fully comes into one full, like, squiggly picture. And what you're gonna find when you comes all together is you're gonna actually have like a unique picture that looks like nothing that exists. You know, and I'm like, oh, those are like a bunch of stupid squiggly lines. Well, the only person that's gonna say that is someone that already has a perception of how like pictures should look, and already to let you know they're not tapping into extroverted intuition. So extroverted intuition is all about ideas. It's all about like freedom. It's all about hearing different perspectives, or like getting different ideas and embracing different ideas. It doesn't, that's the last thing I'm gonna say. Extroverted intuition loves to hear people's ideas. So become someone that's open to ideas. Like a lot of people are gonna have a hard time with that because they're so focused on their own ideas, or they want to have specific ideas that make sense, or actually bring the ideas down to reality. But let's go in reverse and bring reality into ideas. Like this is how you tap into extroverted intuition. And what you want to do is like ask people questions and see how they view things. Like I recommend being like, ask people like, what do you think about aliens? Or like, what do you think about, the game yesterday? Or what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like keep asking, what do you think? Some of this is extroverted thinking, don't get me wrong, because you're asking people what they think. But when you ask people what they think, it triggers their ideas, and they start telling you what they think about things and their ideas on things. And once you hear their ideas, it's gonna expand your ideas. And I feel like what a lot of people do is they try to like keep their idea and like control everyone else's ideas to like fit their idea, or deduct everyone else's ideas to match whatever they see. But I want you to go in reverse, or they'll be like, if I ain't seen that before, it ain't real. So try to not think like that. Like somebody else might have seen something that you ain't seen and it's real to them. So begin to tap into other people's ideas, and you'll begin to get more ideas yourself, and those are some tips to tap into extroverted intuition. I'm gonna do a part 2 to this, so just look out for that. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're about to now touch on the introverted functions and how to use those. But yeah, extroverted intuition is nothing but an idea generator. It just generates ideas all day. It's like boom, 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 boom. This idea, that idea, right? So if you want to tap into it, you have to embrace ideas, and be curious. Ask people what they think. Ask people what ideas they have about things, and be curious. Aside from that, make sure to like and subscribe. We got daily videos dropping. Got a lot of good information coming. Stay tuned. Follow the Patreon. Got exclusive videos on there, and we'll talk soon. Peace.